If you want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do, all these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Alex. Today, I want to talk about fatigue. We're going to talk about the differences between weakness and fatigue, as well as what might be causing it, what to do about it, and caregivers burnout and compassion fatigue. So first up, let's work on defining our operational terms. So weakness and fatigue are often used interchangeably, like they're the same thing. But actually in healthcare, they describe two different issues. So it's important to know exactly what we are conveying when we say things like, I feel weak or I'm fatigued, because it can really help our doctor specifically narrow down the possible causes of those symptoms. So weakness is a lack of physical or muscle strength. It's the feeling that it's going to take you a lot of extra effort to move your limbs or your other muscles. If you have muscle weakness as the result of pain, then you may still be able to make your muscles move, but it will hurt. Fatigue, on the other hand, is more of a feeling of tiredness or feeling exhausted or like you need a rest because you don't have a lot of energy or strength. Fatigue can be the result of too much work or poor sleep or excessive worrying or even boredom or lack of exercise, which is why I wanted to especially talk about it today. You can get fatigued from not moving enough, not just from overdoing, but also from underdoing things like sleep or exercise or just being too bored. And these are all things that are very important to consider while we are effectively still performing social distancing measures. Even worrying about what's going on in the world around us right now and how that impacts our loved ones and those of us who have lost loved ones recently, whether that be to COVID or the other issues that don't stop just because there's a pandemic running. So all of these things can result in fatigue, even as we are opening up more businesses across the country. So fatigue is a symptom that may be caused by an illness or medicine or medical treatments, including chemotherapy. Anxiety or depression can also cause fatigue. So weakness and fatigue are both symptoms. They're not the primary disease. They're the result of something else. And because they can be caused by a whole host of other health problems, it's really important to determine how much of an issue weakness and fatigue are, and that can generally only be determined when you have your other symptoms evaluated as well. So specifically with fatigue, that's that feeling of not having a lot of energy or feeling exhausted or just incredibly tired. You might feel just a little fatigued because of overwork or not getting enough exercise or worrying too much, being understimulated mentally or not getting enough sleep. Illnesses like the cold or the flu can also cause fatigue, but that generally goes away as your illness clears up. Most of the time, mild fatigue occurs with a health problem that can generally be improved with home treatments, and it generally doesn't require visiting a doctor. However, there are other types of fatigue as well that may not go away as quickly as the rest of the symptoms or the primary cause goes away. Stressful emotions can cause fatigue. That type generally clears up when the stress is relieved. But there's also many prescriptions and non-prescription medicines that can cause fatigue, and that also includes the use of alcohol, caffeine, or illegal drugs in addition to prescription pharmaceuticals. If you are having more serious symptoms along with your fatigue, like an increase in breathing problems, or if you have signs of a serious illness, unexplained weight loss or gain, abnormal bleeding, etc., then you should really go to visit a doctor at that point. Also, if you're having fatigue that lasts longer than 2 weeks, you may want to go see a doctor, because that type of ongoing fatigue could be caused by a more serious underlying health problem, such as anemia, which is when you don't get enough of the hemoglobin, which carries your oxygen throughout your body in your red blood cells. It can also be problems with your heart, like coronary artery disease or heart failure that's limiting a lot of that oxygen-rich blood in it getting to your heart muscle or the rest of the body. Metabolic disorders like diabetes can also cause fatigue because it causes that blood sugar to remain in the blood rather than entering into your body's cells so that it can be used for energy. Also, problems with your thyroid gland can be an issue because it regulates the way your body uses energy. So if you have a low thyroid level, which is called hypothyroidism, then you can have fatigue, weakness, lethargy, weight gain, depression, memory issues, etc. A high thyroid level, hyperthyroidism, can also cause fatigue, weight loss, increased heart rate, trouble with heat, sweating, irritability, anxiety, etc. There are very many symptoms for these two types of issues, whether your thyroid be underactive or overactive. Kidney disease and liver disease can also cause fatigue when certain chemicals build up in the blood to toxic levels. So if you have fatigue without an obvious cause, it can be really important to also evaluate your mental health. Fatigue is a very common symptom of mental health problems, and that includes, but is not limited to, anxiety or depression. Fatigue and depression together can become so severe that some folks may even consider suicide. And if you are feeling suicidal in any way or thinking excessively about death, it's important to reach out to your doctor. If you think that your fatigue may be caused by mental health issues, also reach out to your doctor. Now, the good news is there are a few ways to know if your fatigue is normal. A lot of adults often tell me, and I feel the same way, that part of being an adult is just feeling tired all the time, in addition to continuing to tell your friends that you are going to hang out soon and then you just never end up seeing each other. You know, in the before times, before social distancing, even then. So there are a couple of ways to evaluate that. First, think about how much sleep that you're getting. The National Sleep Foundation recommends that folks 18 to 64 years old get 7 to 9 hours each night. People who are 65 and older tend to need 7 to 8 hours each night. There is a normal level of fatigue for an adult. And if you had a late night and feel tired the next day, you didn't get that 7 to 9 hours of sleep, then feeling tired is normal. But fatigue can become a concern if it affects your health and safety. So if you are fatigued to the point that you are feeling like you may doze off in situations where you need to stay alert, like driving, or if you operate a forklift, things like that, then that is very dangerous, and you may still want to talk to your doctor, because at that point, even if you don't feel that it's abnormal fatigue, it's compromising your safety, and it's important to address that with your doctor. And when you do that, they're going to ask you questions about how long you've been experiencing symptoms to try to help you determine that cause. They'll ask you if it's occurring every day or just periodically. They'll ask you about your diet and everything as well. So you may want to keep a little journal of that for when you go to the doctor for the past week or so to help give them more data to work with. It can help patterns to rise to the surface that you may not be aware of. And they may also go ahead and ask you to keep some type of journal to look for this underlying cause. So certain things can affect how rested you feel, and that includes poor sleep, different types of shift work, jet lag, substance use, and so on. Certain medications can also do it. So you want to make sure that you're tapering onto your meds appropriately with your doctor, and you are tapering off of your meds as well. Because just like the thyroid being underactive or overactive, having too much of your meds or not enough, or not increasing or decreasing at a gradual enough level can also cause fatigue. All right, we're going to go on a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about some lifestyle habits that could be causing your fatigue. Stay tuned. You really can't underestimate the importance of having the right creative work for your brand or your product. Whether it's a logo, a website, a book cover, or an ad campaign, you really need a quality design to make that big difference pop and deliver your overall engagement and success in a competitive market. That's where Design Crowd comes in. Design Crowd has over 750,000 designers from Sydney to San Francisco ready to help you with awesome creative ideas. They make crowdsourcing work for you. So if you need a logo or you're working on your creative branding, you can go to designcrowd.com and post a brief describing the design you need. And then within about 2 to 7 days, you'll receive up to over 100 different designs from designers around the world. Then you pick the best design and approve payment to the designer. So you're only paying for the design that you want. It takes a lot of the guesswork out of freelancing and out of crowdsourcing. And you don't have to be a huge company like Harvard Business School to use Design Crowd, although they have used it as well. You can start a project on Design Crowd for as little as $99. And if you go right now to designcrowd.com/health and wellness or enter the promo code health and wellness on their website, then our health and wellness listeners will receive up to $150 off of your design project. That's designcrowd.com/health and wellness or entering that promo code health and wellness.
Are you looking to learn more about the latest trends from the fitness world? Are you confused by all of the different trends that are out there? The GSMC Fitness Podcast is the place for you. The GSMC Fitness Podcast is the place to come for people of all skill and interest levels. Join us as we explore the latest trends in the fitness world. Does that new exercise really work? Should I try yoga? Whatever your question, chances are good you'll find an answer on the GSMC Fitness Podcast.
Welcome back. Before the break, we were introducing the concept of fatigue and how it differs from weakness, as well as defining what we really mean in the medical sense when we refer to these two issues. Now we're going to talk about some ways that our daily lifestyle habits might be causing our fatigue. So part of getting older is feeling more fatigue. Remember that the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, you guys. And as we get older, we lose mitochondria. And we also produce less adenosine triphosphate, that ATP molecule that delivers energy to cells throughout our body. So you may just be experiencing some effects biologically of aging, but you also could be having problems from medication side effects or chronic illnesses like depression or heart disease. And these can all make you feel tired or sluggish. But age and disease-related factors aren't the only types of issues that can make you feel drained. Your lifestyle habits might be associated with it as well. So first up, we're going to talk about inactivity. As we get older, we naturally lose muscle mass. And if you have less muscle mass, that in turn means you will also have fewer mitochondria and less ATP. And being sedentary makes that even worse because it weakens and shrinks your muscles and it causes them to use energy inefficiently. So by actually lounging around, it may make you feel more tired. It seems counterintuitive, but hey man, that is the human body. So getting physical activity strengthens your muscles. Your muscles have to get accommodated to what's going on around you. They need to be moved in order to use things in your body, these molecules and this energy, the way that it needs to be used. It helps them become more efficient. It helps them conserve their ATP. And it's also going to increase the production of certain chemicals in your brain that also promote more energy for your body. So 30 minutes a day, at least 5 days a week. Remember, 150 hours total per week is what doctors recommend for your exercise, and that is in moderate intensity. You can even spread it out in shorter intervals like we've discussed in the past by going for a walk early in the day and a walk in the evening. So 2 15-minute walks, that's totally fine. And you don't even have to actually sweat. You can go garden for a little bit in the evening. 30 minutes of gardening is enough to go ahead and help your body out. That's still exercise that you would not have been getting otherwise. Go out in the yard and play with the kids. Maintain social distancing, of course, but go ahead and just horseplay. That is going to get you a lot of exercise. And it's something you would not otherwise be getting if you tend to be more sedentary. It can even be really small, like choosing to climb the stairs or walking farther in a parking lot. It does not have to be anything super extreme to be beneficial to your life. You can really literally just start walking around your apartment complex or around your neighborhood. That's what I've been doing with social distancing since the gyms are closed, and some light yoga. I have a bum knee, so certain types of exercises and yoga moves can be really difficult for me, and I have to modify them. But taking those walks, I can at the very least get some fresh air and some vitamin D from the sun and some of that sunlight so I can synthesize serotonin inside of my gut and go ahead and get some exercise. It's all around good for you. So if you're feeling really fatigued, you may want to try going for a walk. It sounds weird, but it strangely works. So you can also be too fatigued from too much stress. If you have chronic stress especially, that can increase the levels of cortisol in your body. And cortisol is that stress hormone that your adrenal glands produce, and it reduces ATP production and increases inflammation. And get this, an increase in inflammation also reduces ATP production. So it's a really terrible positive feedback cycle where your ATP production is drastically decreased, both by the initial stimulation of it and by the side product of the inflammation, which is further decreasing it. So it's important to keep that in mind. Stress reduction techniques are associated with lower cortisol levels. And we spoke in recent podcasts about emotion-focused coping and problem-focused coping specifically if you're looking for some ways to cope with what's going on in the world around you right now. And we also have another episode on stress from back in January if you want to check that out too. So reducing your stress levels can really help lower your cortisol and can also give you more energy. So yoga, mindfulness meditation, Tai Chi, breathing exercises, guided imagery, the gradual relaxation of your muscles in an intentional way, all of these can help you out, even just 10 minutes per day. So right now, I want you to go ahead and roll your shoulders back a couple of times, and then relax. Drop your shoulders, relax your jaw if you've been subconsciously clenching it, and relax those neck muscles. I'm not going to lie, I'm not always great about remembering to do that either, and my shoulders do get really stressed out and the muscles feel all knotted up from being stressed a lot. So actually talking to you guys on these podcasts helps me quite a bit because it reminds me as I am reminding you to go ahead and do these things. And even 10 minutes can help. If you've been sitting in your chair for a while today, go ahead and get up. Remember, about every 45 minutes or so, that's about how long your attention span tends to be. And you can get up for 15 minutes at a time. It helps your blood flow. It is also going to help out your muscles, and it's going to reduce your stress. Give yourself a break. Next up is a poor diet. So if you're not nourishing your body, you're not going to have the vitamins and minerals necessary to produce enough ATP, and that can also lead to fatigue. Additionally, eating a lot of processed food can increase inflammation in your body, which we have already found, and when we were discussing stress, is going to impair ATP production and therefore reduce the amount of energy that you have available to you to accomplish your daily tasks. If you're older and your appetite isn't what it used to be, try to eat something different. Try to perhaps do it in the form of a shake. A lot of times I'm just not hungry and I am on the go 24/7, you guys. I even have my sleep scheduled and everything like that. So when I am just feeling like it's too much, then I go ahead and grab some ice cream and just a little bit of it and some milk and mix in a scoop of protein powder and go ahead and turn that into kind of a milkshake so I can get that down. Oftentimes, I will put a bunch of strawberries or mixed berries in there too, so I'm getting some fruit and getting the natural vitamins, getting them the natural way rather, and that really helps me out because oftentimes if I am not in the mood to eat something, I can still drink something. So try that out if your appetite just is not there. I totally understand, and I'm right there with you. However, if you eat too much food at a time, it can also lead to blood sugar spikes, which can also make you feel fatigued. So you want to kind of space out your meals throughout the day. That's one reason why smaller meals with snacks in between can really help out your body. It's like taking your medication at the same time every day to keep those same levels within your body. It keeps it stable. This works very similarly with your blood sugar. So if you have these tiny little meals, then it helps you to sustain what's going on in your body, including your metabolism, your blood sugar, and your energy in general. So to help that out, you want to eat whole foods like vegetables, fruits, whole grains, and lean proteins like chicken, fish, nuts, seeds, things like that. Pretty much the Mediterranean diet. Also, fatty acids in foods that are rich in protein really help boost your ATP. So get yourself some snacks, like 200-calorie snacks, you guys. Things that have protein in it, like almonds or sunflower seeds or pumpkin seeds. Whatever it is that you specifically like. Could be hummus with some vegetables. Go from there. I don't particularly love the classic hummus with carrots routine, so instead I make my own hummus at the house and I put cucumbers with it. I just slice them up so they're like little chips, more or less, like you would use for pita chips, and they don't have a ton of flavor, but really they're just a vehicle for the hummus. I do like cucumbers though. Alright guys, we're going to go on a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about some more of these lifestyle choices to help us figure out how to reduce our fatigue. Stay tuned. You really can't underestimate the importance of having the right creative work for your brand or your product. Whether it's a logo, a website, a book cover, or an ad campaign, you really need a quality design to make that big difference pop and deliver your overall engagement and success in a competitive market. That's where Design Crowd comes in. Design Crowd has over 750,000 designers from Sydney to San Francisco ready to help you with awesome creative ideas. They make crowdsourcing work for you. So if you need a logo or you're working on your creative branding, you can go to designcrowd.com and post a brief describing the design you need. And then within about 2 to 7 days, you'll receive up to over 100 different designs from designers around the world. Then you pick the best design and approve payment to the designer. So you're only paying for the design that you want. It takes a lot of the guesswork out of freelancing and out of crowdsourcing. And you don't have to be a huge company like Harvard Business School to use Design Crowd, although they have used it as well. You can start a project on Design Crowd for as little as $99. And if you go right now to designcrowd.com/health and wellness or enter the promo code health and wellness on their website, then our health and wellness listeners will receive up to $150 off of your design project. That's designcrowd.com/health and wellness or entering that promo code health and wellness.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Talking about some lifestyle habits that could be resulting in fatigue. Now we're going to pick up where we left off, starting with too little sleep. So it makes a lot of sense that not getting enough sleep may cause us to feel tired, exhausted, and therefore fatigued. However, I want to talk about the why of it. So if you don't have enough sleep, that can increase cortisol and also promote inflammation in your body, which we learned in the last segment can really reduce your ATP and your energy even further. So if you're having sleep issues, they may be caused by sleep apnea as well. And sleep apnea is really just pauses in your breathing during sleep. And it causes a dip in blood oxygen levels that also lower your ATP and energy. So if you are feeling that you may be having sleep apnea, you should especially talk to your doctor about any of these problems that might be preventing you from getting sleep. That also includes health conditions like waking up frequently to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, or even medication side effects. You can also work on improving your sleep hygiene. So sleep hygiene doesn't mean to clean your sheets more frequently. It really means that you're looking to create a bedtime routine. You want to make sure that you're going to bed and waking up at the same time each day, keeping your room cool and quiet, and that you're not using a lot of electronics because those stimulate your brain. So I'm guilty of this, just as I'm sure many of you are, of going to bed and then laying there with my phone because it doubles as my alarm clock and it's within arm's reach, and scrolling through Instagram or Facebook, etc. while I am trying to go to sleep. That's not great for any of us, you guys. It can further stimulate your brain, not just because of the blue light, but because you're actively engaging your focus in something. So first up, I recommend using one of those orange light filters. A lot of phones, like the iPhone, have them now, and you can get apps for it too on your computer. Many of them are free, and it just changes the color of your monitor throughout the day. So as it gets closer to the sun going down or closer to your bedtime, regardless of what that may be, especially if you're doing shift work, I want to be mindful of that, then it will go ahead and start turning it more orange to filter out some of that blue light. Now, you still shouldn't have it in bed with you, but it can also help you wind down in the hours before, because we do get too much light at night and not enough during the daytime, as we discovered in our episode on sleep. Remember, we also need to keep our room cool because we want to make sure we're able to sleep better. If you're too warm, you may wake up sweaty. So if your blanket perhaps may be causing you too much warmth, swap to a sheet, change the thermostat, or try a different blanket. I have 2 blankets on my bed, and my winter blanket is no longer needed, especially here in Texas. So sometimes my feet get really cold, and I'll put the winter blanket down over my feet on top of the other blanket. But if I have that on my body, like the rest of my body, while I'm trying to sleep, especially my torso, then I'm going to wake up sweating. So that's going to mess up my sleep by waking me up. But it's something that I can easily fix, and something that I have recently noticed. So keep in mind that there are even little changes like that that you can make. There's also a component on my phone that came with the native iOS that allows me to kind of set a bedtime, actually. You can set bedtimes for different days, and it also takes note of when you actually go to bed. So my phone is calling me out right now on 1 a.m. yesterday, but it helps you see what your actual sleep cycle is. And if you're anything like me, you probably put your phone down as the last thing before you go to sleep and pick it up first thing in the morning as it's your alarm. So for me, that's a really good gauge of the sleep that I am getting. It just helps keep me honest, keeps me and my phone on the same page. So try to remove any electronics from your room. I don't have a TV in my room, but I do have my laptop, so that's not good. But sleep experts say that you should only be doing 2 things in your bedroom, and that is sleep and sex. That's it. So try to remove these items from your room if you can and get a better night's sleep. Poor fluid choices can also cause fatigue. So if you're drinking a lot of sugary beverages like soda or tea or even sports drinks, if you're not exercising, that can cause a spike in your blood sugar. And after it spikes, you get a fatigue drop afterwards. Being dehydrated can also make you feel tired, and you can drink too much alcohol or caffeinated beverages near bedtime too. So alcohol can interrupt your sleep in the middle of the night, and water cannot really be replaced by alcohol or Coke or even many kinds of tea, especially not coffee either, because some of these are really diuretics and they're really going to make you pee more than you normally would. That's not good because then you're losing more fluids. So you need to be drinking water too. So it's those 8 glasses of water a day, 8-ounce glasses, in addition to any other fluids that you are drinking. We can't sub in the tea for the water. We need to make sure we are getting the water, and anything else is just a bonus. So I have a 1.8 liter container that I used to use for archaeology digs. And so with that container, I go ahead and fill that puppy up and keep it by me all day. My Twitch viewers think it's absolutely crazy how big it is. It's larger than my head, really. But it works really well for me because if I have it nearby and it's in this giant container, I am much more likely to drink all of that than I am to get up and go get several cups of water. That's just the way I am. So I am making the healthy way, the lazy way in this case. Is it ideal? No. But we are looking for better choices, not perfect choices. You also want to make sure that you stop drinking caffeine or alcohol 6 to 8 hours before bedtime. So for a lot of us, especially when we are in college and in our 20s, we go to drink after work or after class. So it does tend to be in the evening close to bed. But really, a lot of these doctors at Harvard Health say that you should be day drinking. Now, that is not a direct quote from them. That's not what they're saying, really. But if you are going to sleep at 10 p.m., then 10 p.m. minus that 6 hours means you should be having that drink around 8 hours around 2 p.m. And that's just the way it works, you guys. That if we do the math on it, that's where it is. So just go ahead and subtract 6 to 8 hours from your normal bedtime and see where the doctors are really saying that you should stop drinking caffeine or alcohol in order to get a good night's sleep. In addition to these poor fluid choices, being isolated can also cause symptoms of depression, and depression is often linked to fatigue. So social distancing and the social isolation in general that we are going through can be really difficult for folks. Interacting with other human beings and feeling connected to others can really bring you a different outlook on life, and it can help you feel more energized. Doctors are still learning more about that, but they think that we produce different types of brain chemicals that make us happier and give us more energy when we connect with other people. You don't have to physically be present with someone. You do need to have some type of interaction with others, though. So go on Twitch and find somebody that you're interested in watching and talk to others in the chats, or talk to your loved ones on Messenger or FaceTime or House Party. There are so many different apps and avenues of communication open to us right now that even if your personal circle is rather small, you still have options, even with strangers. Join a Facebook group. It's really nice to get together with people who have shared interests, and that includes new acquaintances. Strangers are just friends we haven't met yet. So if your fatigue is affecting your day, or you have symptoms like a headache, muscle or joint pain, fever, urinary problems, stomach pain, or stomach issues, do make sure that you go see your doctor, and also consider some of these lifestyle changes, even if you start by making some small adjustments at a time. Remember, we're going for better choices, not perfect choices. All right, we're going to go on a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about some facts about fatigue. Stay tuned.
The GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible. Download the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
To help prevent fatigue. Now we're going to talk about some facts about fatigue. Remember, fatigue is a symptom, not a primary health issue. And so if we're experiencing fatigue, that can often indicate that we have an underlying health problem. If you were up late the night before with an infant who couldn't sleep, or you had crazy work deadlines that you were not able to get pushed back, or you were just up too late watching television, then that can often indicate normal fatigue. But if you are thoroughly exhausted chronically, that's when your health becomes compromised. So we're going to talk about a few different facts regarding fatigue. Fatigue is different for folks from just being tired. If you just hiked a really long way, or you stayed up late because you were at a wedding and you didn't go to bed at your usual bedtime, then you are likely to be fatigued, and those symptoms will pass in a few days. You're not truly exhausted in many of those circumstances. You're just kind of tired. Fatigue, on the other hand, is really feeling drained and exhausted. And it also has generally a mental component. It also tends to last for an extended period of time, and that's usually more than a month. So here are some symptoms of fatigue. They include a lack of motivation, dizziness, headaches, moodiness, muscle weakness, sore or achy muscles, chronic sleepiness or sleep disturbances, difficulty concentrating or remembering something. You may also experience confusion or forgetfulness. You may have an inability to follow through with some activities and unexplained anxiety or fearfulness. If these issues are alone or combined, the symptoms can really severely affect your everyday life and health. You really need to be able to focus, to perform well at work or at school, or even just to drive from one destination to the other. If you have kids, we need to be present in the moment for our children, and that can really also cause a problem. So it may be hard to stick to our usual exercise routine or eat healthy meals with snacks at these regular intervals. And that can also lead to weight gain and issues like diabetes. So if you're having trouble with fatigue, you can also go talk to your doctor about that. Just feeling chronically fatigued is in and of itself enough of a reason for your doctor to see you, and they can help you figure out a solution, whether it be some of those lifestyle changes we discussed or a medicine change. It doesn't matter. They're going to try to help you the best they can. You also need to look at the whole picture to get diagnosed. They're looking for patterns when you go see your doctor. It's really troubleshooting, a lot like calling internet tech support in a way. Certain combinations of symptoms were more likely to indicate certain problems that are actually underlying, certain causes behind them. So we really need to make sure we are explicit in letting them know our patient history. That's why they ask a lot of these open-ended questions and why they ask about things that are in our family, because sometimes things are hereditary and other times they may not be, but it may be something in your lifestyle. So they're not just haranguing you if they're asking you these questions. They're just trying to troubleshoot your health issues by ruling out other things along the way. So they'll ask, how did the symptoms come on? Was it sudden or gradual? Are they getting better or worse? How often do you feel fatigued? How long have you felt fatigued? Are you feeling it every day? So that's really important to answer them honestly. They may also perform a physical exam to check for biological issues like anemia or diabetes or any other types of inflammatory disease like rheumatoid arthritis, because these types of issues can result in fatigue. And medications that treat them can also treat the fatigue. They may also check your lymph nodes to see if they're enlarged, or ask if your appetite has changed, or if you've gained or lost weight, or if you've had any symptoms of being ill, like a cough or pain or fevers, because these things may indicate that you could have an infection or a more serious cause that may require more tests. There are also many different potential causes of chronic fatigue, whether it's sleep disorders or poor sleep habits or being ill. It is a lot that they have to sift through to figure out what's going on with your body. They may run some tests on your thyroid as well, based on your responses regarding weight changes and appetite changes. So even just daily stress from work responsibilities, or being concerned about COVID-19, or just having been socially isolated for too long, can really mess with your sleep or just promote more cortisol and rob you of energy. Fatigue can also definitely stem from psychiatric disorders or mental health issues, especially depression and anxiety, but also from many other types. They often will find it to be a psychiatric disorder after they exhaust all other potential avenues, unless it's very apparent that it's coming directly from the mental health issues. So that's why they ask you so many questions. They're pretty much going in order of likelihood, so they don't tell you that something is a zebra when it is more likely to be a horse. Mental health tends to be more likely to be the cause when your fatigue lasts for 6 months or longer, though. There is a way to find relief, though. So the treatment for fatigue is going to vary broadly depending on what the underlying cause is. In most cases, there is an effective way to help you get more energy. Of course, if it's a lack of sleep, then they focus on ways to help you get good quality sleep and get enough sleep. And part of that is taking those electronic devices out of your room. You may also put up blackout curtains to make sure it's dark enough, and so on. It's not always going to be a medical intervention in the classical sense that we think of, but they will help you out in figuring out what to do. There are also a lot of benefits to get exercise earlier in the day. Just 30 minutes 5 times a week can help you out for a host of health issues, but even 30 minutes of cardiovascular exercise like running or biking only 3 to 4 times per week can help you with your sleep cycle. If you have a sleep disorder, though, your doctor may refer you to a sleep specialist. Lastly, Diet and exercise can really help you combat fatigue. So eating a well-balanced diet and avoiding excessive alcohol or caffeine can really help, and staying hydrated. So if you haven't had your 8-ounce glasses of water today, I recommend going and having one right now. Also avoid carb-heavy meals, and that includes meals that have a lot of sugar in them, because that is going to cause fatigue. Your blood glucose when you have these carb-heavy meals is like a roller coaster, and it's going to have a really sharp peak, but then it's also going to have a very steep drop. And you don't want your blood sugar to plummet from having this really carb-heavy meal. So if you're going to have carbs, make sure that you are also having some good proteins and fats. Really look into those macros to make sure you're giving your body the best shot possible. In addition to being able to help with fatigue for general health reasons, it can also really be helped when depression and other mental health disorders are what is causing it. You can go ahead and exercise and diet for that. Cognitive behavioral therapy may also help, as can medications and just exercising and eating right. Even if it's just a better choice, it does not have to be a perfect choice. You can make yourself a gradual plan too. So there are effective treatments available, and they range broadly from pharmaceuticals to types of therapy to changing your diet and exercise or your sleep habits. So you want to make sure you go see your primary care physician if you're feeling fatigued for a prolonged period of time. We're going to go on a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about caregiver fatigue/burnout and compassion fatigue. Stay tuned.
Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? The GSMC America's Still Beautiful podcast is a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts America's Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today. Download the GSMC America's Still Beautiful podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
We were talking about some facts related to fatigue. Now I want to talk about caregiver fatigue and compassion fatigue. So a lot of us are in the situation right now of being caregivers in many different ways. COVID-19 and the resulting necessary isolation mean that a lot of us don't have many of the outlets that we had before regarding how we typically would deal with caregiving for someone. But caregiving consumes like 24 hours a day, you guys. It can be truly a full-time job. And sleep deprivation and fatigue are very common. If you are having to help somebody get up and go about their day and get dressed and eat and go to the bathroom and just caring for them and making their food and everything 24/7. That is very noble, but it can also really burn you out. And it can't really be understated. So fatigue is physical or mental exhaustion or weariness. And anyone who is giving someone care in this way can get caregiver fatigue. And that is whether you're providing care 24 hours a day or if you're doing this from a distance. You may lose sleep with caregiver fatigue or just feel really worn down from constant obligations and needing to put help for others before your feelings. And we have to really address it because feelings of resentment and guilt can set in in addition to the caregiver's health being compromised. Remember, we can't pour from our own cup if it is empty. So sleep is really necessary for a healthy life, but in the caregiver scenario, it tends to be a low priority because you're putting someone else before yourself. And as adults, we need 7 to 9 hours of sleep, unless we are 65 and older, and then 7 to 8 hours of sleep. And the American Association of Retired Persons, AARP, says that the need for caregivers to take care of themselves is very similar to performing regular maintenance on a car. So without that regular attention, even amazing cars will deteriorate over time. You have to make sure you're maintaining your car, maintaining yourself as the caregiver. Rest needs to be a priority for you. Your brain's frontal lobe is especially reliant upon sleep in order to function the way it needs to. And if you don't have enough rest, then your brain is not able to access memory, control your speech, resolve problems, and it can just overall have a really rough time. Family caregivers and healthcare personnel, especially right now, are at an increased risk of physical and emotional problems while they are providing care to a loved one or someone they care about in general. And that fatigue can also end up harming your immune system. It creates a vulnerability to illness, and it's present in many caregivers, but it's an invisible force. Fatigue really creeps up on you over time, and you just are so focused on the other person and just getting through the day that you don't really tend to focus on your own energy at the time. You're just fully immersed in the job that you're performing, and your health declines right in front of you without you even noticing, because that proximity is blinding. In addition to not getting enough sleep, caregiver fatigue may also include changes in appetite, weight gain or loss, frequent infections, addictions to substances, including alcohol and prescription drugs. It can give you problems focusing, and it can also increase your sensitivity to pain, as well as interfere with your body's ability to regulate insulin production and how it metabolizes sugar. So that puts caregivers at an increased risk of developing diabetes, which is something that did not seem intuitive to me. I didn't think about that until I was researching this topic. But there are several ways that caregivers can fight fatigue and improve their physical and mental health and really work on maintaining it thereafter. First is go ahead and assess yourself. Are you experiencing fatigue? Is it affecting your daily life in a negative way? Well, if you are, then there are some solutions to alleviate that. You may need to carry out those solutions with family members or friends, or hire a service if you're able to help out. That may look like asking family members or friends to stay overnight a couple of times a week so that you can get a full night's sleep. Asking someone else to monitor that person for a little bit. It's okay to reach out for help in these situations. Remember, no one is perfect, and none of us are Superman or Wonder Woman, and we need to go ahead and know our limits so that we can help our bodies out, so that we can help the others out. It's really important for you to also perform your own self-care activities and know your personal limits and set them as needed. So as time goes on, it can be really easy to just slide into overhelping and just never getting any type of sleep, not getting any type of respite at all. So when you accept outside help, a lot of folks have found that they experience a strong sense of relief and wish that they had taken folks up on it much sooner. It's also particularly important for caregivers, and that includes medical personnel, to maintain a daily routine for naps and sleep as much as you're able to so your body can get used to a pattern. Listen to positive sounds to perhaps promote relaxation before sleep. So white noise or music or nature sounds like waves and stuff can help out. You want to avoid TV shows right before bed because in addition to it just making your brain more active, it can also unsettle your mood and disrupt that ability to rest. Meditating or prayer or deep breathing exercises, muscle relaxation exercises can also calm both the mind and the body to help sleep. If you awaken in the middle of the night, you can try these as well. Something one of my friends taught me recently is that if you're having trouble sleeping, move to the other side of the bed if at all possible, or turn the other way, or go to your couch instead. We're ultimately not trying to turn the couch into a new bed, but sometimes if you're having trouble falling asleep, making these small changes can really help, even if it's just because the other side of the bed is cooler. I don't entirely understand the mechanism behind it, but I do know that when I have trouble sleeping, that it also often works for me. You can also try to take a relaxing bath or read something nice before bed, journal some thoughts to get them out, or some folks drink warm milk. That one, I don't understand. It grosses me out a little bit because I didn't grow up doing it that way. But if that is your thing or you are open to drinking warm milk, try it. If you have insomnia all the time, then go ahead and perhaps discuss some medication options or some therapy options with your physician. It's really important as a caregiver to take care of yourself as well. If you don't, then it can lead to compassion fatigue. So a lot of times caregiver fatigue and caregiver burnout are referred to as being the same thing, but compassion fatigue is a little bit different. That can really be past the point of burnout or of caregiver fatigue to where you're not just tired, but now it's affecting your mood to the point that you're irritable all of the time and you're resentful of your loved one. So you may feel overwhelmed, exhausted, and drained. You may start wanting to avoid your loved one. You may experience a sense of hopelessness or cynicism, or start having angry outbursts, or a reduction in your patience or tolerance, heightened anxiety, and even physical symptoms like headache or GI issues. So it's also important to use self-care to prevent this too. Additionally, sometimes having a therapist can be really helpful, or writing in a journal, or just speaking with a confidant who's not going to judge you when you express these negative thoughts and emotions. It can help you to be happier and healthier and to be able to truly help out the ones you love. We're going to go on a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about some great tips to fight exhaustion and fatigue. Stay tuned.
GSMC Beauty Tips Podcast gives you advice on everything from hair to fashion to skincare products. We'll talk about the latest trends in makeup, hairstyles, and anti-aging remedies. And we'll cover all of the newest fashion trends. If you have an interest in or questions about the beauty trends that might work best for you, the Golden State Media Concepts Beauty Tips Podcast has got you covered. Download the GSMC Beauty Tips Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Before the break, we were talking about caregiver fatigue and burnout, as well as compassion fatigue, and some things that caregivers can really do to help avoid that or prevent it. Now we're going to discuss some tips for fighting exhaustion and fatigue in general. So as we touched on earlier, proper nutrition is very important to maintain your energy. So you want to make sure that you're getting good nutrition, that you're nourished. And that doesn't just mean eating enough food. It means eating the right foods as well. Really paying attention to those macros. Getting enough raw fruits and vegetables. Making sure you're drinking enough water throughout the day to stay hydrated. And that you're having enough grains as well in your body. Making sure you're leaning towards whole grains instead of empty carbs. You can also make sure that you get enough of your minerals. Those phytonutrients and vitamins as well are very important for your diet, as we discussed in the episodes on vitamins and minerals. So if you want those phytonutrients and that energy, eat some plants. You also may want to drink black coffee and also use blackout curtains. So you need quality sleep to sustain your energy and help you feel refreshed. And melatonin is really produced at night in the dark to help you regulate your sleep. That's why it's also important to lower the lights, dim them as you are going to bed. Use fewer lights as night creeps on. You need that for your melatonin to function appropriately. And even artificial light can mess with your melatonin production. Some doctors say that if you're on a budget, you can cover your windows with aluminum foil to eliminate the light. So there are many different ways that you can do this. Some professionals even recommend covering up any lights in your room that blink or glow with black tape or true dark filtering dots. Make sure that if you do pick up some of these, that they are appropriate for electronics and are not going to lead to any electrical or heat issues. I also like to keep my phone on Do Not Disturb mode. So there are very few people who can actually contact me if I am trying to sleep. It won't ring through if someone who's not on my exception list calls me. And that really helps me make sure I'm getting good sleep. Especially with all of those spam callers out there now, and depending on when you actually end up sleeping, that can be really helpful in my experience. It was especially helpful when I was doing swing shifts. If for whatever reason you didn't get a good night's sleep, you may be able to get some health benefits from a power nap. So power naps, you have to keep them under about 20 minutes. If you sleep longer than that, it might make you feel groggy. So it's important to keep that in mind when you go to nap. Do set an alarm to make sure you're not getting more than 20 minutes of rest. Generally, when folks say that they feel worse after a nap than better, it's because it was a little bit too long. But that brief rest lets your brain and body chemistry really reset and give you more energy. You also want to have a lot of grab-and-go greens in your home. So it's really important to help fight against low blood sugar by having a healthy snack. One of the ways that I do this is by making sure that I don't bring a lot of unhealthy food into my home. If I don't pick it up at the grocery store, then I can't just grab it when I am wanting a snack. So if your blood sugar is dropping, it's better to reach for greens rather than for coffee, because the coffee will drop your blood sugar even further at a certain point. Some doctors do recommend having coffee as your initial pick-me-up in the morning, but not having it after noon, or especially not having it 6 to 8 hours before you go to bed. But in the best cases, you are better off going and having a powdered greens drink or eating some vegetables. It's going to give you a lot of nutrition and balance your blood sugar. If you would rather drink something rather than eating solid food, then you can get those greens drinks to help you out. You can also pre-package yourself some 200-calorie snacks. So that can be hummus with veggies or nut butter and crackers. It doesn't have to be peanut butter. It could be light popcorn, those pumpkin seeds we discussed earlier, or one of my personal favorites, pistachios. You just want to make sure that you're being mindful of the calories in them and the macros in those snacks. But it's important to have snacks to tide you over. And really, are we going to fight a doctor when they say, eat more snacks? I'm not. I'm here for the snacks. Just make sure that they are healthy. You also want to make sure that you hydrate a lot. Drinking a lot of water, especially in containers that can measure for you how much water you've had, can be very helpful. Even losing just 1 to 3% of your body fluid can make you feel really tired and affect your difficulty concentrating. So they recommend that if you're feeling tired, to also drink water. If you are not a fan of drinking plain water, then some doctors recommend having a cup of mint tea. So the mint helps to flavor it and help perk you up to help you not fall asleep at your desk. So a lot of studies also say that peppermint may help with alertness and concentration if you're trying to select a specific mint for your tea. You can also add fizz to your drinks. So if you are not a fan of drinking plain water, you can also drink some fizzy water. So have some seltzer water, and you don't even have to drink it plain. You can mix it with a little splash of a fruit juice if you'd like. Remember to try to get one with no added sugar, and it will help flavor your beverage. It'll give it that fizzy texture. And sometimes I do this when I'm craving a soda. I will just mix in some 100% juice, generally either grape juice or apple juice, with some sparkling water. And that helps me out. I use that really to combat soda cravings for the most part, but if you just don't like water, that may help you as well. If you are tired, it's also important to get up and get your endorphins going. 20 to 60 seconds of jumping jacks or jump rope can invigorate your whole body. It stretches your torso, increases your blood flow, and gives you a really quick energy boost. So doing that first thing in the morning can really help to start your day out really well. You can also try some strange tricks. So just like sleeping at the opposite end of my bed, I'm open to weird tricks, you guys. Whatever works to help me out. So to get more energy, you can do things like hold your hands near your face and squeeze them into a fist. Or scrunch up your face while you squeeze your hands really tight. And that makes your fist and your face small and tight. Then you hold this position for about 5 seconds and then let them explode as large as possible. And you can say, "Ha!" on the breath. I'm sorry if that scared you. You do that 3 times or so for a real jolt of energy. And you see this type of exercise being performed as well in movies like The Farewell. I watched that last night. It was absolutely wonderful. I highly recommend it. You might feel sad for a lot of it though. But it's a great movie, and the grandma is teaching her granddaughter at one point how to do this exercise, although she does punches in the air for the most part, or slaps the back of her arms or legs as she does this too. And it just really releases a lot of energy. And you are supposed to kind of yell when you do it as you exhale on that breath. Additionally, freezing spoons is not just for helping your eyes reduce puffiness. It can also help you feel more awake in addition to making you look more awake. You can also put them on the back of your neck if you're having trouble waking up, or if you're having headaches that are associated with neck or eye strains. Sometimes that coolness on my muscles just feels a lot better. It gives me a quick jolt of energy and is overall just really nice. Remember that when athletes work out a lot and their muscles are sore, they apply cold not heat, to help it feel better and also help their muscles heal. You can also try just cutting yourself some slack. It's okay if you just need more breaks than usual if you're feeling fatigued, or if you need a nap. There is nothing wrong with taking a 20-minute nap. It's important to listen to your body and to respect what your body has to say. If you are sitting there for the entire day or working hard on your feet the entire day, no matter in what manner you're working to bring about your exhaustion and your fatigue, it's really important to have that rest time to restore your body from everything you've done in the day. So it could be a 20-minute nap or meditation, or even just taking a sequence of deep breaths. Whatever that looks like for you, listen to your body and do what you can to give it its best shot in preventing and addressing fatigue. Thank you for listening to the GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'd like to ask that you please remember to subscribe to the show, and writing a nice review always really helps us. Also, if you could please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, I'd appreciate it. Thank you kindly, and have a good night.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Health and Wellness Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.